if you're in Judge Murphy's courtroom in Dartmouth Provincial Court, you're in a courtroom where it's presided over by somebody who a black lawyer has alleged was discriminatory. Yes, I think that Judge Murphy is discriminatory in her actions. And if I had any black relative or friend in her courtroom, I would say you should be looking for a different judge.
Why do you say that?
So she singled me out in a major way. I was in a courtroom where, I'll back up. On summary and like preliminary matters where there's not actual evidence being called, it's normal for a senior lawyer to send a junior lawyer to appear as their agent. So the junior lawyer would go in and speak to the matter on the record and deal with minor things, setting dates and stuff like that.
When you say a junior lawyer, is it someone who's not a full lawyer yet? Or
no, they're a lawyer, but they might have less experience than the senior lawyer.
But they're entitled to be there.
They're entitled to be there. They're a practicing lawyer. So routinely, in Nova Scotia and beyond, senior lawyers or even junior lawyers will send an agent to appear on their behalf if they can't be in the courtroom for something minor, right?
Okay. Something minor
like we're setting a date, or we're confirming whether there's a charter application being made, or there's no witnesses there. We're just dealing with housekeeping.
Not an actual trial.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's normal for agents to appear, okay?
But they have to be a lawyer themselves.
Normally.
Okay.
In some circumstances, they could be an article clerk or something like that.
Okay.
So Judge Murphy presided over a matter where there were 3 agents appearing on the record for the principal lawyer, okay? One of the lawyers that appeared was Pavel Bubnov, who was there as my agent. So I was the principal on the file. Pavel Bubnov was the agent on the file, okay? Immediately, Judge Murphy noticed that on the record and took issue with it, even though it's normal for agents to appear for principals. So she said, "Where's Lyle?" Because she noticed that, or "Where's Mr. Howe?" Because she noticed that I wasn't there. Mm-hmm. She asked Mr. Bubnov to go and retrieve me. I was in Halifax Provincial Court. He was in Dartmouth. I left Halifax Provincial Court. I drove to Dartmouth Provincial Court. And as I was getting to court, Judge Murphy wanted to go on the record because she wanted to criticize me for not being there. And she wanted a record of it to send to the Bar Society. So she said to me, essentially, "You're supposed to be here. You're not supposed to send an agent. Why? You're always supposed to be here. It applies to everybody." And then I pointed out that the other 2 white lawyers that were there were agents appearing for white principals. But she didn't notice that because she was fixated on trying to find fault with me.
Well, maybe she was, like you say, fixated on you. How do we know that that's racism? Maybe it's just a personal gripe with just you.
So the way that racism works nowadays...
Whether or not that's right or wrong.
The way that racism works nowadays, you can always say that. But we still have to draw inferences that are reasonable. Okay. So if you look at, there's 2 white lawyers. So there's 4 white people, okay? 2 white agents, 2 white principals, 1 black lawyer. Maybe she only noticed because I was black. That's a problem. Maybe she noticed because she's biased against black people. That's a bigger problem. Maybe she noticed for some other reason, like there was stigma associated with my name. You shouldn't single somebody out more just because there's stigma associated with them. You shouldn't treat them differently and create more stigma because there's already stigma that exists. But let me back up for 1 second.
But if I was going to say, if I have a trial coming up, I've been charged with a criminal offense, and I see that I have Judge Murphy coming up, am I able to apply for a different judge? I mean, it doesn't seem like there'd be much I'd be able to do.
So,
if anything,
you can ask for a recusal, and if you make an application and you base the recusal based on what I've just described, I'll give you my evidence. You can have my transcript where she singled me out, and it was clear that it was discriminatory double standards that were being applied. The African Nova Scotia Justice Institute, maybe they want to take this on and make it so that she's recused off of matters when it's black people. We can fight it. We don't just walk in the door and accept it. That doesn't mean she's just going to say, "Okay, you want a different judge, go ahead." It might be a fight, but what I'm saying is you should fight.
And so did you complain against the judge?
I put in a complaint against the judge, and I'm currently working on my complaint, the next stage in the process for trying to do something about that. But, it's a difficult process. The other thing I would say is this. Racist people don't just admit that they're racist today, right? Maybe 40, 50 years ago it was socially acceptable to do so. Nowadays, if she admitted that, "Oh, I did this because Lyle's black," she'd be off the bench. She's not that stupid, right?
Exactly.
So obviously, every single time that we encounter modern racism, they could try to point to something else, right? My cousin, Shane Howe, years ago, had a cross burnt on his lawn, which is one of the most obvious examples historically of racism. That's, and even during that, the accused,
from my recollection, two cousins of his partner were charged and convicted of that.
Exactly. But even then,
these were white people.
Right. But if you ask them, they'd say, we weren't racist. We just had a personal problem with him. You burnt a cross on his lawn. That's as obvious as it gets that it's racially motivated, right? So I think that...
But they were convicted, weren't they?
I think they were convicted. I'm pretty sure they got a slap on the wrist. But my point is, modern day racism consistently is going to be, oh, I did it for another reason. Not only modern day racism.
Even when it's blatant, you're saying.
When it's blatant. So if you look at the historical record. Exactly. If you look at the historical records from executions in Nova Scotia, one of the earliest ones from like the 1700s was a black woman from Africville, that was executed for stealing potatoes, right? Okay. And so if you went back to the 1700s, even those people would say, we're not murdering you because you're black. There's other black people that we're not murdering. We're killing you because you stole potatoes. That's what modern racism looks like, right? We say, look, we disbarred you because of the double bookings and because of your language associated with the double bookings. You lacked candor or whatever. That's like pointing to the potatoes for that black woman. You just want to hang her. They just wanted to lynch me. And with Judge Murphy, she could try to point to whatever she wants to, why she didn't notice the other two white lawyers, but she noticed me. But I know in my heart that it has to do with my race. And I know that all of the stigma that I've encountered is connected to my race. I was charged with uttering threats one time and accused of swinging through the bars at an inmate. This inmate had dozens of convictions for fraud. The police took his word over mine, didn't even look at the video in the cells, and charged me. Yeah, white complainant, and charged me with uttering threats, despite a video that shows that he was lying about what happened. Prosecutor didn't even bother looking at that video, proceeded against me for months, okay? Then finally, when I pushed for the video, they dropped the charges after they put me in the paper and accused me of swinging at somebody and threatening people. They charged a lawyer based on the word of an incarcerated fraudster with many fraud convictions. I know in my heart, the police officer can try to say I was just doing my job. No, you aren't. You wanted to try to smear my name through the mud, and part of it's because I'm black. And I know that, whatever excuses the system wants to try to point to as justification for their actions, we need to draw our own inferences. Yeah. Just like we would draw an inference about the lady with the potatoes, we don't even need to be in 1700 or hear the evidence. We know that no white person's being hung for potatoes.
That's what I was thinking. Maybe there was. I don't know. I'd have to go back.
No white person's being hung for potatoes. No black person's being disbarred. No white person's being disbarred for double bookings. They're not even being prosecuted for it. No white people are being charged with swinging through the bars if there's a video that shows that he didn't do it. I got a lawsuit pending for that, by the way. No white lawyer would be treated the way that I was treated. And it was dozens of different interactions and several different institutions. So I have problems with how the police how the police investigate black people, and based on my own experience and my professional experience. I have problems with how public prosecution proceeds against black people. The sentences tend to be harsher against black people, in my opinion. Right across the board, black people are overly investigated, overly prosecuted. They're pushed out of their profession at a higher rate, at least in my anecdotal experience. I feel that. And I feel that our system is broken. And so we have some people trying to repair it, but it's not enough.